and welcome to another edition of IABM TV, where today I'm delighted to be joined by Patrick Woolcocks, who is the sales manager at Connect. Patrick, thank you very much for giving your time up to join me today. How are you doing?
That's a pleasure. Yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
Great. Shame we're doing this virtually, as we have done everyone else recently, and desperately hoping we can meet in person this year. But whilst we're here, lots of exciting things to talk about. So without further ado, I suppose 2022 is going to be a really exciting year for Connect. First off from me then, how has recent years increased the importance of investing in network monitoring within the industry?
There's been a number of factors, partly people working from home more and more remote productions as two different things really. And a lot of organizations have been rushing to catch up with all that and getting people set up and established working remotely, which they've done that over the last couple of years, had to pick up very quickly. But now I think they're saying, okay, what's next? Now we need to put some tools in place to help us manage these new infrastructures that they've created. So that's certainly bringing that to the fore at this point, I think.
Absolutely. And I suppose everyone across the world, across industries has done really well to adapt and innovate through the last 18 months, 2 years off the back of the pandemic. But as you referred to there, I suppose the real challenge lies ahead as to, okay, we've dealt with the short term, what does the long term look like? Which obviously is not an easy challenge for anyone anywhere, but something that we're all having to really have a conscious thought about this year and moving forward as well. Something I know, absolutely. Something I know that Connect has kind of responded to some of these issues and moving forward with is Kyvio. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, I mean Kyvio was a new package, or is a new package, which was put together over the last 5 years or so as a very up-to-date modern network monitoring system, as NMS. It's now being used in a number of ways that wasn't really thought of at the start. For instance, monitoring remote workstations in particular, and monitoring KVM networks as well, because this is now become an issue for many organizations with remote working. So the product is developed to take care of those customer needs, of those customer requirements.
Fantastic, and always great when you're able to pivot a product into doing more than maybe was seen from it at the time of development. So that's really interesting to hear. And I believe that you've recently announced a major update to Kyvio. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that looks like?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the recent upgrade to version 4. There was a number of important changes. Structurally, the most important change was that we can add drivers now for virtually any protocol. The structure is that you can just write a driver to deal with all sorts of different protocols. For example, one of the ones that is now available is an AWS billing driver. So we can, if you're using AWS services, with Kyvio, we can monitor it for you, so you know how much you're going to be charged for, because you know how much CPU power you've used, or the size, what that billing information is.
Absolutely, it sounds fascinating and great to hear a practical example there, which obviously AWS really popular across the industry and across most industries really. So fascinating to hear that. A little bit more on Kyvio then. If anyone is interested or wanted to be part of this, what benefits do customers get with Kyvio being powered by Kubernetes?
Kubernetes.
That's right, yeah.
Well, the development into using Kubernetes is about the cloud deployments. So the inherent structure is in Docker containers. So if we're running in a VM or on actual hardware, or dedicated hardware, or in VM environment, we're not using Kubernetes there. The Kubernetes is to allow us that management of the system when it's in the cloud. It means that to set up a cloud instance, it's seconds. There's no manual work to do of deciding what it needs or installing it. We can install it in seconds. It's an automatic process by using Kubernetes as that orchestration layer. So it's a real advance in allowing us just to get in, put it into the cloud. We were running in the cloud before, but this just makes the whole experience for the customer so much simpler and so much easier.
Fantastic, and I suppose that's what we're all aiming for, isn't it? Well, it sounds like a great piece of innovation, and will only help those involved and those wanting to get involved as well. In fact, it's fantastic stuff, and I know obviously you've elaborated a lot already on what Connect has done in 21 and what is going into 22. But I guess my final point, as we are just still, as we discussed at the start of our call, still just about in the new year. I think you just about say it was in the new year.
Yes.
What is 2022 going to look like for Connect? Where do Connect want to get to in 22?
Well, there's a number of things that we're working on. The cloud deployment is a very important aspect of what we're doing. Not just that we can install Kubio in the cloud to monitor on-premise devices, but we can also monitor devices or services that are running in the cloud. So we can have a cloud-to-cloud installation. That's a major development, quite important to the whole industry. And that is something which we're going to take forward and develop very much so this year. With version 4, as I said, we added the capability of writing drivers for many different systems. We gave the example of the AWS billing, but there's many others, including the WMI interface, which is Windows Management Instrumentation, is apparently what that stands for. But the important thing there is being able to monitor, let's say, if someone's editing from home but using a workstation, or they're editing on remotely to a workstation, monitoring all that performance and monitoring the services that are running becomes important to the performance of the whole system. So we can look at the whole system, both the services that are running on the workstations and the CPU usage, the memory usage, etc. Things like Adobe, for instance, if you're editing with them, they require a lot of space for caching. So if you've run out of memory for caching, you run into trouble. Often, though, you don't realize you've run into trouble until you're sitting there thinking, I'm sure the rendering should have been done by now. Why haven't I got the final piece? Well, you need to know in advance, or someone needs to know in advance, so that they can monitor what's going on. We're also adding some other tools for the engineering teams of our customers to use. So they'll be able to develop dashboard views, the SVG files which we use, the dynamic dashboards for themselves, as well as us providing them. They'll be able to develop those themselves using some tools that we'll provide, along with drivers, so that if they need to modify something or they want to rapidly add a new device, especially if we're thinking about perhaps the events industry or remote or big sports events which you set up for. Now things change quickly, and you don't often maybe not get time to come back to us and say, please, can you provide us with a new dashboard? It's the middle of the night somewhere, and you need to adjust it so it makes sense for the operation. So we're adding these tools all to help the customer experience, make the customer experience just that much more simple, that much simpler. That's one of the features of Kubio from the very beginning, was that it is a very easy to use tool. The customer experience and the user experience were key to the fundamental design of the product. So we're continuing that by now adding these further tools around the new version.
Brilliant. And as someone who has fell victim of caching issues with Adobe products in the past, granted at a very much lower level than a lot of your customers will, I can vouch that having that knowledge before it all goes wrong is definitely a positive thing. So that sounds really exciting. Patrick, it's been brilliant to talk to you today. It sounds like there's so much innovation and exciting stuff going on at Connect. So we'll be watching with eager eyes this year and hoping to see you in person soon at some point. But again, thanks for your time today and all the best.
Well, let's hope so. And prior to that, people know where to find me, I'm sure.